That's a great idea, and I'm a proud co-sponsor of that piece of legislation.
How about that? I didn't know that.
This is the main sponsor is Jim Cooper of Tennessee, one of the most conservative Democrats in the House, and I've partnered with Jim on a number of pieces of legislation, and I'm proud to say he's voted for every one of my striking earmark amendments I've ever put on the floor. So he's a good man, and it's a good piece of legislation.
No, we're not. I think our current currency is fine, and it's sustainable. I think changing the currency, if we change anything, maybe go back to the way we did it years ago with the way of gold. But the mess with that right now, I think we have bigger issues to deal with than dealing with currency in our country.
You know, thank you for bringing up the question. The Urban Land Institute's been around. It's a not-for-profit, and it's not allowed to do political advocacy, as you know, since the 1930s. It's an organization with 30,000 members, and it's just completely dishonest that the Washington Special Interest Group helping out Congressman Flake is coming and saying because someone in that group said something, I'm responsible for it. Be the equivalent of me saying Congressman Flake's responsible for Obamacare because he's part of a 435-member group, a much tighter group. This group is much, much bigger. The Urban Land Institute is just a trade group for people in the real estate industry. And of course, for politicians or people who wouldn't understand that. They would say, oh, I've never been a part of an industry group. It's just like the other attacks, which are, I use debt in my business when we come out and release the forms and say, this is a line of credit. And people in government all the time say, well, line of credit, you must charge it all the way up. And no, the line of credit, the time to build an ark is before it rains, not afterwards. And people in business understand that. And so they go out and secure lines of credit for when they're needed and then pay them off.
All right,
it's what we need right now in Washington, D.C. There's some common sense business principles instead of these frivolous attacks that are completely false. And Jeff, I appreciate you coming back on the one attack and apologizing over Facebook. By the way, our business was never located at the address on the sheet that you all released. So I don't know what you guys are talking about, your campaign people.
Okay, it's getting a little off topic there.
But I appreciate you coming back because the attack is completely false and not something. We should be talking about issues, not frivolous things like ULI.
I'm totally against it because I believe the basic problem, I stated it earlier and I do, and I know it more some people, if we would restore this country to the Constitution, a lot of what Congress does they wouldn't do anymore. They are involved in so many parts of our life that are unconstitutional, it's crazy. Think about, what is it, I think it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15. Congress is supposed to be able to repeal invasions. How's that working? The things they're supposed to do, they don't. And the things they're not supposed to do, they do. They are involved in our lives, they regulate, they over-regulate, they give permission, and then they go around the circle and say, that's the EPA that did that, or that's OSHA, or that's the White House. My God, they are the ones that gave the power to all these departments to exist. That's the problem. It's the way the government now functions, which is a direct violation of the very Constitution they swear to uphold and abide by. And we as the people need to take our country back. We've got the right to do that. We have the obligation to redress these people. And an election is a really great time to do it.
Well, I mean, our primary role, the federal government's role, is to protect its citizens. And we do that through a number of reasons. One, we have an army, we have a navy, we have air force, we have Marines, we have armed forces that do a great job. Not only do they do that, but they've been the bulwark of freedom throughout the world. We have been the best thing for liberty the world has ever seen. And we need to remember that when we come under attack in some international organizations like the UN and elsewhere. We have been a force for good in the world. Financially, I mean, our primary interest is to serve our national interest. That involves statecraft and diplomacy and other things that go on and interfacing with other countries and free trade, obviously. But it is to serve our national interests. That's our primary role, particularly from the perspective of what the federal government's role
Yes, we need to have, I think, take some away those powers. I don't, there's times that we need to example 9/11. I think that was very simple, that President Bush go into for Congress to act. I don't think we should have needed that approval, but the Constitution requires it. Give the authority to the Chief Executive Office to send military troops in as a peacekeeping force. We've done that. It doesn't work. 1982 Beirut. When we send our troops in for that, we don't give them the tools that they need. At that time, it was as a peacekeeping force that your weapons could not be loaded. That killed 300 some Marines. That was unacceptable. Since then, it's changed. We have to act quickly at times, but I also think we need to act responsibly, because we don't just put our American troops at life, we put other innocent men and women lives in danger if we do not act responsibly. So I would like to see a little bit more restraint, a little bit more restrictiveness, that the President can just add a whim, go ahead and do this. We do have the greatest technology. We can do a lot of things without attacking other countries.
Yeah, I believe we should be using every means possible. You know, whenever you come into conflict, it's like a personal conflict you have at home. First, what you do is you talk and have diplomacy. And then when diplomacy doesn't work or doesn't get the results you need, you have to move on to the next step, which in government generally is sanctions. And you move on then, after that, to leave other options open, like military.
I'm asking specifically about working cooperatively with the Russians, which isn't necessarily a popular idea with a lot of old school Republicans.
So with Syria, in respect, so you go, if that's the process you're going to use, you need to go and look and see, does diplomacy work very well? No. Sanctions now, do they work? With all due respect, again, to Congressman Flake, he voted against sanctions on Iran for a decade.
Syria.
Talking about Syria. I know, but I understand. Iran is the same concept, and it's a. Did you go against sanctions against Syria as well?
If you want me to answer this question, come on, let's stick to the question series.
I think we have to go and have someone who's actually willing to vote for sanctions against the country. And if that involves, if Russia can help us achieve our objective, and we do not give up any sovereignty to Russia in doing so, I think we ought to cooperate with Russia in getting our objectives done.
I used to work for Southwestern Engineering, which built nuclear transformers, so yeah, I know how safe they actually are, but I also believe we need to use oil. We have a lot of it, and natural gas along with that. In fact, I don't know how many of you know this, but India is now manufacturing an air-powered car that will go 180 miles. So this whole discussion could be mute. But we have a government that has no energy plan, and that's why we're having to mess around in Syria and Iran and Iraq and everywhere else. If we had an energy plan, we wouldn't have been spending over $80 to $100 billion a barrel of oil that we've been spending, which actually helps those people finance the terrorists that attack us. Now that may be unpopular, but it's true. You don't put guns in the arms, in the hands of your enemies, and then wonder why they shoot at you. My God, we haven't had an energy plan since Jimmy Carter. That includes Reagan, that includes both Bushes, that includes Stoltenberg, and that includes Clinton. But it also includes a Congress, who, if my memory serves me right, for the first 6 years of this century, we have Republicans in charge back there. What did they do? We're securing borders around the world while we have thieves, murderers, rapists, kidnappers, and drug dealers and gang members invading our nation. Why don't we make our country a little safer and let them fight their own damn wars?
All right, next question.
You bring up a great point. Our immigration system right now, our legal immigration structure, is based on the principle of family reunification, as opposed to what our economy needs, education levels and other things. For that reason, I've introduced what's called the Staple Act, which says that for high-skilled labor, when you look at Silicon Valley, for example, half of the businesses that have been started up in the past 30 years have been started up by foreigners, foreign-born students who went to our universities, we educated them, and they were allowed to stay wonderful jobs from Google, Sun Microsystems, Intel, name most of the big ones, started by foreigners. We need a system that allows people with the skills to help create jobs to stay here in this country and base our legal immigration system much more on that rather than simply family reunification. That's important, but more important is what our country needs in terms of its economy and growth. And so if we had a system like you're suggesting, it might lend itself more to what I'm speaking of, and that might be a good thing.
I support term limits. Termlimits.org, I've signed on with them for term limits, but I've disagreed with one part of their plan. Their first part of their plan for term limits is for Congress, 3 two-year terms. With that gives Congress a pension. I think two terms, 2-year terms, 4 years. That way saves 435 people from collecting a pension that probably shouldn't deserve it off the taxpayers' back. Second, for Senate, it should be 12 years, 2 terms, that's one I support. I think that will play a vital role with a number of the issues, but I don't believe it will solve the issue of the vision. The vision can be set by sitting down and discussing issues. We got to tear down the wall that's dividing the Democrats and Republicans, and we need to get back to one simple basic things. We're humans. We're people. Let's put this aside in what party we are in this end. We are humans. We're here as elected officials to do a job for the American people. And it's not being done. We're arguing and fighting over simple things. It's called common sense.
Yeah, you bring a good point, which is whenever anyone says they're with someone 100% of the time, most of the time there's only one party doing the thinking, which is I don't agree with my wife 100% of the time, with my best friends 100% of the time. In the Republican Party, I believe we've gotten away from a lot of the basics. One of the things is Paul Ryan's put out a plan. It's a good plan, but it's a good start. I think we need to go further. I think you can't have governments going on for a period of 5-10 years running deficits the way they are. We will become Greece. Our party needs to be more aggressive on that. And we need to start having more transparency. Your plan before, I like the transparency.